Well, hello there and welcome back to my channel. I have a full couple of days planned for you filled with gardens, coffee, and some delicious fresh baked apple cider donuts. This day was absolutely gorgeous, so we decided to take our family who were in town to the beautiful Ladew Gardens, which is located in the stunning Maryland countryside of Monkton. They had just had their garden glow is what they call it. So we had the privilege of being able to see the hundreds, maybe close to 1,000 carved pumpkins that were placed all over the gardens, which made this day extra special. Ladew has been named one of the top topiary gardens around the world and has 22 acres of spectacular gardens with more than 100 topiaries, a mile-long nature trail, a native butterfly house, and many other trails traversing the beautiful 22 acres. Harvey Ladew originally purchased the 1700s house in 1929 after moving from Long Island to be closer to better fox hunting in the less congested Maryland countryside. And over time, he converted the main home into something very luxurious and developed the most magnificent gardens surrounding it. The gardens have beautiful long vistas with adjacent garden rooms tucked into any nook and cranny that you can think of. It has such a beautiful, intimate feel to it. Many of the rooms are divided into single color gardens like the pink garden or a single plant theme like the rose garden. This style of gardening was the rage of England at the time, where he visited frequently to go fox hunting. He was among the first Americans to recreate this type of gardening on this side of the Atlantic. The gardens are well known for their over 100 topiaries on the property, and they are all absolutely incredible. I hope that you enjoy this brief little tour of Ladew and that you're able to take in all of the fall beauty that surrounded us this day. It truly was spectacular. Enjoy. Well, it is the next morning. We had such a wonderful time at Ladew with family yesterday. The weather was perfect. It was so beautiful. I woke up today and really wanted to make some pumpkin spice flavored coffee. I don't like the artificially flavored pumpkin spice coffees, so I decided to try to make my own today. I do use decaf coffee. I don't do well with caffeine, and I like to make my coffee in a French press. So I ground up my coffee and I put a generous amount of my pumpkin pie spice blend all over my coffee grounds. And after filling it with some steamy hot water, I let it steep for about 10 minutes. When it was done, it smelled so wonderful and tasted absolutely delicious. I like to also finish my coffee off with a almond milk based creamer. I use a Nut Pods blend, which I think is a really good substitute for a traditional half and half. It's rich and creamy and nutty. It tastes so good. And I like to sweeten my coffee with just a little bit of a monk fruit based sweetener. I try to keep my sugar pretty low. And in the end, this just tasted so good and I enjoyed it by the fire. Well, it is a little bit later in the day and I'm having another cup of coffee. It tastes so good. I love how the pumpkin spice flavor turned out. Welcome to the inside of my house. I am going to be doing some baking and some cooking, maybe some DIY, maybe some decorating content for you as the weather gets a little bit cooler. I'm not going to ignore my gardening. I will still be doing a lot of gardening. In fact, we're going to take a little garden walk after I do some baking. So today I want to make some apple cider donuts, and they're not a traditional apple cider donut. I follow mostly a paleo-based diet, which is gluten-free, dairy-free, grain-free, a lot of frees. I deal with some autoimmune issues, and eating that way really helps me to manage some symptoms, helps me to feel the best that I can feel. And I just enjoy eating a clean diet. I think that it really does a lot for my health. So I'm going to show you a recipe that is a healthier version of an apple cider donut today. It couldn't be a more perfect fall day to do that on. It is such a beautiful, sunny, just gorgeous fall day outside. So let's get right into it and come along with me for the day as we do some cozy baking and a little garden walk afterwards. I went ahead and pulled out all of the ingredients that we're going to be using today. This recipe comes from a website called Paleo Running Mama. I use a lot of her recipes. They are delicious and a really good substitute for a regular wheat flour recipe. They taste so good, and I will definitely link the recipe below. And it worked out perfectly because yesterday we made some spiced apple cider in the crock pot. We had some family and friends over and had some left over, and it calls for apple cider in the recipe, so that worked out really well. And we have some basic things like salt and eggs, and the flour for the recipe is an almond based flour along with an almond milk, tapioca flour, some coconut oil. I like to use grass-fed butter because it's much healthier for you than a regular butter. That's some baking soda in there, some coconut oil, cinnamon, some coconut sugar, and this is some maple sugar, which is amazing. I love maple sugar so much. Some vanilla, and I am going to be making my own apple pie spice mixture because I don't have a pre-made one, so I am going to make that as well, and our little donut pans. So I will link a lot of this in my description below. And if you guys are interested, you can definitely click on those links and purchase from under my name. It's an affiliate link, so I do earn a little bit of commission if you do that, and I greatly appreciate if you choose to support me and this channel in that way. So let's get started baking. This is the website Paleo Running Mama, and let's see, this is the apple cider donut recipe that we're going to be doing today. The recipe says to measure 1 cup of apple cider, and we're going to pour it into the saucepan, and we're reducing it down to a 1/3 cup. So I'm going to turn it all the way up and let it boil, and then simmer for about 5 to 8 minutes to let that reduce. To make the apple pie spice mixture, I found a recipe on My Baking Addiction. I'll link that as well. And we're just going to use 4 tablespoons of cinnamon. I love this big thing of cinnamon. I get it at Costco. It's a giant container of organic cinnamon. It's a great deal if you have a Costco membership. 1.5 teaspoons of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, 1 teaspoon of ginger, and 1.5 teaspoons of ground cardamom. And now just give it a good mix. Mix it all up. And that's the apple pie spice mixture. Okay, I reduced the apple cider, so it's sitting over to the side cooling. And now I'm gonna add my dry ingredients to start making the dough. I just mixed together all of my dry ingredients, so I'm gonna go ahead and start adding in my wet ingredients next. When I'm melting coconut oil, it calls for 2 tablespoons of melted coconut oil. I just measure it in the solid form with my tablespoon. I'm not going to be able to do this one-handed, but I just measure 2 tablespoons and put it in a little dish and then microwave it for about 30 seconds, and then it's good to go. Combine all of the wet ingredients, and now I'm going to add my reduced apple cider. Give that a good stir. Now I'm gonna add the wet ingredients to the dry and stir until the batter is nice and fluffy. And then I think we're ready to put them into the oven. I can smell that apple cider and the spices. Oh my goodness, they smell delicious. The recipe says to spray the donut pans with some cooking oil. I don't like to use Pam or any of those really processed oils that come in the spray form. I either use, this is avocado oil, and I just brush it on, or they also have an avocado oil spray that you can get at Costco. That's where I get mine from. So I'm just gonna go ahead and brush this oil onto these donut hole pans and then fill them up and put them in the oven. While our donuts are baking, I am gonna come out and do some watering of my pots, and I'm gonna show you guys around the garden quick and show you what it's looking like in mid to almost late October. My pots are still looking really beautiful. They do need a little bit of water today, and we might be getting a frost tonight, so I want to show you what everything looks like just in case that would happen, but I am kind of skeptical if that's actually going to happen. We usually don't get a frost until usually after Halloween here. We're in Zone 7A, Maryland, so hopefully no frost tonight, but these plants are still looking really pretty. My mandevilla, it's not flowering as much as it would be if it were really hot out, but still has really pretty flowers on it. And looking very fall-like out here. The sun is bright right now. It's mid-afternoon and it is really shining down, so I apologize about not being able to maybe see the colors very good right now, but I just want to take you through a little walk through the gardens to just show you what it looks like at the end of October, getting to be the end of October here before any frost comes along and gets whatever is left. There's definitely some things that are still looking pretty, particularly over here in my obelisk bed. This is where I have one of my obelisks. I still have my salvia that is looking beautiful. And the bees are still really enjoying, as you can see, for as long as they possibly can. I also have this purple basil right here that is looking gorgeous right now. It's getting some flowers on it also, and just thriving here in the end of October, looking really pretty. My winter gem boxwood are really standing out right now, especially since I took out all of the zinnias. And one of the stars of the show is my Fall in Love Sweetly anemone. Oh my goodness, I love this plant so much. I just added more to the side of my house, which you can see, I believe it was my last video. And I did put a third one in right here. And I have one right here, which is not flowering like the other. These got so shaded out by the zinnias. I think that it just didn't have time to really grow and thrive this year. So hopefully next year. And more salvia over here. This is the Mystic Blue Spires salvia. This side does not get as much sun, at least this time of the year, as this other side. So it's not blooming as prolifically as the other side is. And tucked back in there, my Melina Fleur Dahlia is still hanging on. It has one bud on it right now. Dahlia lost a lot of its limbs in one of the storms that we had come through. So unfortunately, it's not flowering all that much right now. My crepe myrtle, this is a Tonto crepe myrtle, is starting to get its fall color and looking really pretty. It gets these beautiful orangey red leaves on it. Just looks really gorgeous in the fall. And I still have some sun patience that are hanging on, looking pretty. Tucked on either side of them, I have two Limetta hydrangeas that have seen better days, but still even provide interest in the garden, even though they're looking a little brown, or very brown. So I think they still look pretty in their own way. I still have some things blooming over on my main flower walk that I will show you quick. I still have some HS State Dahlia blooming. Could be deadheaded a little bit, see if I could get a few more blooms out of it. And look how pink my Limelight Prime Hydrangea is. It's such a rosy pink, so pretty. Unlike the regular Limelight, this one gets a lot more pink to it. The Limelight is much more mauvey, more on the mauvey brownish side, which I'll show you down the line here. I have a little lime that has similar color to the Limelight. This was the only patch of zinnias that I left. I'm getting a few more buds, a few more blooms. Besides the raspberry ripple zinnias that I have down the line here, which are a lower lying zinnia, more of a bedding zinnia. You can see my Rose of Sharon are putting on their yellow leaves, not flowering anymore. Starting to lose all the leaves. Really enjoying the caramel heuchera and that orangey fall color it adds to the border. I went through and cut back all my black-eyed Susans and coneflower. My elephant ear is really standing out now. I will overwinter the corms to my elephant ears I'll probably leave them in the ground a week or two after the first frost, just so all the energy can go back into the corm so it can grow bigger and hopefully better next year. My raspberry ripple zinnia down here are still looking very pretty. A little more worn and tattered, but still no signs of any powdery mildew or any significant disease problems. Continue to be really happy with those. My Mystic Illusion dahlia have, I think, kind of stopped flowering for the year, but that dark foliage still adds so much interest to the late season garden, I think. My Liam's ear, I love it so much. This is the Helen Bonstein, and I just can't get over it. I think it's so pretty. And this is the little lime hydrangea that is a little more on the mauvey brown side than the limelight prime that we just saw down the line here. More raspberry ripple zinnia and elephant ear. And just kind of repeat that pattern with the heuchera and the black-eyed Susans and coneflower and daisy. This was a dahlia that never had a chance to bloom this year, sadly. And lots of foxglove that is really doing well back here. My wee white hydrangeas are looking pretty right now. Some of them are looking a little tattered, like that one. And these actually never bloomed this year. They were super slow to come up out of the ground this year and never bloomed for whatever reason. And my Japanese maple is not, I don't think I see any real vibrant red leaves yet, which I'm kind of surprised. This is supposed to get really vibrant red leaves, so I am looking forward to seeing that whenever they really get started. Everything is looking really pretty here, mid to late October. Hopefully we don't get a frost tonight and we can enjoy everything just a little bit longer. Our neighbor's river birch trees are starting to lose lots and lots of leaves. We put on a pretty yellow color, and the bark that they have just offers so much interest all season long. I love the bark on the river birch trees. You can see my impatiens are still looking super pretty. Maybe not flowering quite as much as they were earlier in the season, but still really pretty. They're definitely starting to flop over. You can see right in there. Although, that's interesting. I don't know. I wonder if that could have been an animal or something, because that's a big hole right there. My Annabelle hydrangeas. Really beautiful still. Very pretty. You can see that my Autumn Brilliant Serviceberry is turning that brilliant orange color. I am a little concerned about this tree because it lost its leaves real early and never really put on that full autumn show that it's supposed to and that it has in the past years. So I'm not quite sure if there's something going on with it, but I guess we'll have to keep an eye on this for the next year. this is where I have a lot of my hostas down here that are doing pretty well. This one definitely has gotten nipped by the sun and the heat from the hottest part of the summer, so it's not looking the greatest, but my blue halcyon is still looking really good. And my this is the wee hosta, and these autumn brilliance ferns are really looking beautiful right now. And I have some heuchera in front of them, and just a repetition of hosta back there. And I had an idea. I'm always thinking about what I can do in this corner to add a little bit more privacy. I have some sweet talker viburnum over on the other side here of these green giants that I'll go over to you in a minute. And I thought maybe I should carry them to this corner and maybe make like a little corner hedge out of viburnum right here. And then maybe do something medium-sized right in there, and maybe like a camellia somewhere along here on the other side of the hydrangeas and the obelisk. So I don't know, those are just my thoughts about what to do back here, along with adding more perennials as we go along, just a little bit at a time. I almost forgot to show you my neighbor's burning bush right behind the serviceberry is looking really pretty right now. I don't know if you can see the color, it's kind of in the shade, but it's getting that vibrant red color. My husband loves burning bushes. Everywhere we go, he points them out and asks if we can put one in our yard, and every time I tell him that you have 3 to look at right behind us in our neighbor's yard. We can't fit a burning bush in our yard, so I always think that's funny. I'm gonna walk you in through the other side of our yard, through this side gate, where we have 2 hydrangeas, incredible hydrangeas. They are just getting established, so they don't look the greatest yet. Maybe next year will be their year, and I need to definitely protect them next year from the animals because they really took after them this year. Walk you in through the gate. And this is the bed where I had a lot of zinnias growing that I just took out and added some new perennials that I had that I am overwintering in this bed. I have some sedum that I added a couple months ago, still protecting them from the bunnies. And I had been protecting this white coneflower as well, and added 2 more powwow white coneflower. And I have some spring blooming phlox down here, a denim and lace Russian sage, and some wildberry powwow coneflower, as well as some Denver daisies right here that I put in. I got these on clearance also. All of these plants except for the Russian sage were on clearance. These were $1 a piece, and this one is still going to town and blooming so prolifically. If that's going to do that every year, then I'm going to definitely add more of these throughout my gardens. And these are our Dragon Lady hollies right here to give us some privacy eventually on our deck. And right around the corner here is where I put in this Winecraft black smoke bush that is getting its beautiful red color. It's starting to look so vibrant and pretty. Walking back down on our flagstone path right here, we have this little bed that I have the 3 Sweet Talker viburnum in. And I think I forgot to say that these will get about 3 to 4 feet wide and can get up to 10 feet tall. So we plan to keep them trimmed into a hedge, maybe 8 to 10 feet. But they do stay evergreen for the most part, although last year they did lose leaves in the Arctic blast that we had in December. They are a narrow zone width, only zones 7 to 8, so it's kind of limited who can plant these. And they are supposed to get some really pretty fall foliage, like a purpley foliage on the leaves, and then a pretty pink flower in the springtime that is supposed to be fragrant, kind of like a spicy honey scent from what I understand. So I am excited to see these bloom in the spring and see what kind of fall color they give me this year. So this is what I was thinking of adding over in the other corner down that way also. And then underplanting the viburnum, we have this ageratum that's looking so pretty still. Hasn't skipped a beat and hasn't been touched by the animals. No bunnies. So that is a quick overview of our backyard and how it's looking in the middle to end of October. The donuts are nice and cooled off, and they are smelling so good, looking so good. So I am going to make the icing for them and then finally give them a taste test. To start making the icing, it calls for 2 tablespoons of ghee. I just use the grass-fed butter. I do okay with grass-fed butter rather than the ghee. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut 2 tablespoons of the butter and just put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds to melt it.